Hello, everyone. My name is Rakim Jones, and I'll be presenting the PEST analysis on Mexico. So, in terms of the political side of things in Mexico, Mexico is made up of 31 states and the federal government. And Mexico also has four political parties, opposed to the US having two political parties and 50 states. Another key difference is that Mexico is mainly a civil law system, opposed to the US being a common law system. Now, there are some similarities, not many, the main ones being that US and Mexico are both made up of states, and we also have a president. That's really the only real similarity I could find between the two countries. Now, in terms of the demographic side of Mexico, Mexico's population is right at around 126 million people, while the US is almost double that, right at around 330 million people. And there's also a big difference in the wages in the US and Mexico. So the average wage in Mexico is right at around $18,600, while the average wage in the US is right around 55,000. So you can see that there's a pretty big gap. And the 18,600 is also in terms of US dollars when you convert it. Now, in Mexico, most of the business that's done in Mexico is done in the urban areas, because these are the areas that create most of the infrastructure. While these jobs aren't the highest paying for them, this is where people go to work. And this is what brings Mexico above many other countries, because without these urban areas and these people living in them, Mexico wouldn't really be where they are today in terms of where they stand in the world. Now, to go into the next part about the economic side of things in Mexico, like I said, Mexico is one of the top, and they are a steady growing economy, and they are responsible for building medical devices, things like construction equipment, and so much more. And this really does make them a lead in the competitive trade market. Now, Mexico is also a part of NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement. And while they're in this, Mexico and the US are two of the top trading partners with each other. And actually, US's top trading partner is Mexico, excuse me. Now, with that being said, Mexico does trade with other countries like Canada, Taiwan, China, and things like that. So when you think about Mexico, many countries really rely on Mexico for their technological developments, because without Mexico, many countries wouldn't have what they have today. And not just in terms of equipment, it's in terms of work ethic and things like that. Personally, in my opinion, Mexican natives are the hardest workers on the planet. And I don't think anyone can work harder than them. This is why they're so advanced when it comes to other countries relying on them, because Mexico is one of the most competitive free trade markets in the world. And speaking of free trade markets, Mexico is a free market enterprise opposed to a government controlled, because Mexico is just that advanced when it comes to really the infrastructure side of the engineering part that they do, because they build things from scratch, and many countries rely on these things that they build from scratch. Now, this will also lead into the next part, which is the socio-cultural part. And Mexican culture is a little bit different from other places, because they're not as direct as you see in other places. When you ask them a question, most of their responses will be, maybe or we'll see, just to stay out of confrontation. Here in America, a lot of people that you see ask questions, you're just like, yes, no. They're more direct. And in Mexico, they're not as direct. So that's a key difference in Mexico and other places in the world. Now, in terms of their culture, there's many different things about the Mexican culture. their clothing, their food. There's a lot to learn about in their religion. And while there's not really a specific religion in Mexico, the majority of people are Roman Catholic. But another interesting fact about them is that a lot of Mexicans believe in magic as a source of religion. And that is intriguing because that I didn't know, but it's really not something you would see in the US. But like I said, another thing about their culture is that I stated previously was that they are very hardworking. There's nobody can catch up to them. They are the hardest working people on the planet, in my opinion, like I stated earlier. And this is the reason that they're so technologically advanced, which is the next section. So, like I said, Mexico produces auto parts, medical devices, construction equipment. I mean, anything you can think of, there's a good chance that it is done in Mexico. And for that reason, many countries would like to trade with them. So, to answer the question, would I do business with Mexico? According to all of this information, you can't really say no, because without Mexico, this world would not really be where it's at today, because Mexico has played such a big role in it. And you just can't deny the fact that Mexican natives have truly shaped the way the world is. I mean, even Mexican natives that you see in the US, they are always working. And, they can have anything built in a matter of days. And that really does impress me every time. So you can't really say, no, I can't do business with Mexico, because it's a win-win situation, because you're going to get every benefit out of doing business with Mexico. So that is this presentation. And yeah.